You guys are
You're live.
Ready?
okay.
Good afternoon. This is Bill Klingberg with SCORE Houston. Welcome to our webinar. Thank you for showing up, even if it is just online. We have 319 people scheduled and 27 have showed up so far, but it keeps building. Now 28, now 30, keep going up. Okay, our VP of Operations in the central area, Mark Davenport, is going to introduce our speaker.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome. And we appreciate you guys tuning in. We have an amazing speaker. He's of international reputation. Before I do that, I'd just like to share some quick information on SCORE. We are a organization, a national organization established by the United States Congress, and we roll up under the Small Business Administration. So your tax dollars fund our annual budget. SCORE Houston has the distinction of being the largest SCORE chapter in the country, and we're here to serve. So who is SCORE and what do we do? Our role is to mentor people either in the pre-launch stage, someone thinking about starting a business, or someone who has already launched a business and they're looking for help. SCORE mentors come from all walks of life. SCORE mentors have a ton of experience, and what makes us unique and separate and distinct from everyone else is that we consist of a national organization of people who have actually launched, built, and grew businesses. So we have business experience. Not all of us are business owners. The majority of us who are not business owners have run businesses at the senior or executive level. The only upfront investment that you have with SCORE is the time it takes for you to register to enroll in one of our online classes, or after the COVID-19 lockdown is over, show up at one of our workshops. So we're here to serve. We encourage you to visit us at scorehouston.org, at scorehouston.org. We have a series of webinars that we put on every week. Typically, they run for an hour, in some instances, 90 minutes. And we're going to give you great advice on just about any topic you can imagine pertaining to business, being successful in business, how to own a business, how to run a business, how to start a business. And on that note, I'd like to introduce our guest speaker today. His name is, again, Ken Underhill. He's an international recognized cyber security expert and the recipient of the 2019 SC Media Reboot Award for Outstanding Educator. And I know Ken probably trains at a minimum of 500,000 people a year. And I think the number is bigger than that. So Ken, you can level set that for me when I'm done. He owns a master's degree in cybersecurity and information assurance. And Ken is the CEO of K&L Tech, where he helps clients reduce disruptions in their business. K&L Tech clients have found 4 major disruptive categories in their businesses: as sales, profit, shareholder value, and daily operations, or ops, as I'd like to say. Ken is also a certified ethical hacker and computer hacking forensic investigator. These words scare the dickens out of me, but Ken's a great guy. He's an certified ethical hacker. So if he hacks you, he'll do it in a nice way. I'm just kidding. He's worked with clients like Amazon, Splunk, Snowflake, Fortinet, Palo Alto Networks, Embold, Sumo Logic, Trend Micro, and really too many more to name. So ladies and gentlemen, we have somebody that is pretty well known and very good at what he does. So let's get ready, let's sit back, and let's get taught some things by Ken so that we become more profitable during this time. And lastly, let me give you the SCORE website again. It's houston.score.org, houston.score.org. I encourage you to bookmark that page. Ken, I'm passing the microphone over to you.
Well, thanks, Mark. Thanks for the warm introduction. I'm going to share my screen with everyone. I'm going to be doing the presentation today, and I'll be introducing myself a little bit as well. Mark did a pretty good job of that. So I want to make sure in the chat or in the QA, if you can just let us know that you can see the screen. If you have problems seeing the screen, let us know. That way we can make adjustments. If you have problems hearing me, let us know so we can make adjustments. But everyone should be able to see the screen and hear me as well. So before we get started, I just want to kind of pull you guys a little bit and see what the audience is made up of, because I know several people personally that are going to be on this particular session, and they come from a mixture of backgrounds. So by show of hands, and what I mean by that is just post in the chat or the QA, who out there is a full-time business owner right now? So you've been running a business, even if it's brand new, but COVID-19 has given some interruption to your business, but you're a full-time business owner, you don't work a job. So just post full-time in the chat or the QA to let us know. Now, for people that have a part-time business or that are kind of doing this as a quote unquote a side hustle, go ahead and just post side hustle in there so we kind of know who's doing that. And then there's also going to be people on here that work a job right now, or maybe they got recently laid off or furloughed. And so they're just coming on this to kind of learn, like, how can I actually make money online? So for those people, just put help me or something like that in the chat so we know who you are. So go ahead and do that in the chat real quick. Welcome, by the way, to How to Make Money Online in Your Business During COVID-19. Now, again, I want to stress that some of the information we're going to cover can be also used by people just looking to make money online. So my name is Ken Underhill, as Mark mentioned. In this session, we're going to cover some key learning objectives, but we're going to cover a lot more information. So not just these things. We're going to talk about, where do we actually start? How do we get started? Where do we start? We're going to talk about what you can actually sell. So what kinds of things can you sell, whether you're a business owner or just somebody that's kind of starting out? We're going to talk about, how do you actually do it? Because it's great to know what we should do, but how do we actually go about doing these things? We're going to talk about some realistic costs, because I'm focusing this session on as low of cost as possible, because I'm very mindful of the economic impact of COVID-19 right now on most business owners. And then we're going to talk a little bit about how to nurture your customers. So how do we get those people and then actually establish those long-term relationships? Because eventually COVID-19 is going to end. So we want to be able to continue with those customers long-term in the future. So who am I? Well, Mark summed it up quite a bit. And Mark mentioned a number of about 500,000 students. I'm a little over 2 million students globally annually right now. So a little over a couple million students a year. As he mentioned, I've got a graduate degree. I have some certifications. One of the more important things for this session is I've been making money online for about 6.5, 7 years now, using nothing but online stuff. So I didn't have a business that I then took online. I started making money online. I've been through all the sort of schemes out there, right? I signed up for MLM things, they didn't work. And I signed up for all these courses that didn't work. So I've been through it all. I spent a lot of money going through all that stuff, so you don't have to. So I've been doing digital courses primarily, but I also have done online marketing and stuff like that in my business. So let's talk first about, where do we start? So we're going to talk about things like identifying a gap, and we'll talk about what that actually means. We're going to talk about communication. So how do we kind of direct people in the right way to go? And then we're going to talk about, how do we meet those people's needs? And then we always want to be thinking in the future. So what's kind of that next thing that we can sell them on or give them value on? And we'll talk about what that means in just a moment. Let's talk about identifying a gap. What does that actually mean? Well, if you're a business owner out there, that means, what is the problem that you've been solving for your customers that because of COVID-19, you can no longer do? Let me just give an example. Let's say that I own a restaurant. And traditionally in my restaurant, people come in, it's got great ambiance and everything, and the food's great. We've got awesome customer service. So when people come in, they stay for hours. They enjoy their time with their family and friends. They end up buying more stuff. They buy desserts, they buy alcohol, they buy more food to take to go because they had such a great experience at a restaurant. And then here comes COVID-19. What do we do? Well, a lot of those people have the same problem. Back when I was single, the reason I ate out a lot was because I had no clue how to cook anything. And it was just more convenient, especially with all the hours I was working, to just go to a restaurant and get something to eat. So a lot of times I would go to the restaurant, I would buy a bunch of food and take a lot of stuff to go because I'd say, okay, well now I have breakfast and I have lunch and I have dinner for tomorrow, so I don't have to worry about it. Those people are still out there with that problem. So what can you do? Well, one of the things that I would do is I would say, okay, there's people out there that have a problem that they still need to learn how to cook. They need to make their own meals because of COVID-19. And maybe they don't want to try to figure out like what restaurants are open right now in Houston. And they don't want to travel to restaurants. Maybe they don't trust that somebody's making the food properly and cooking it long enough. So everyone's kind of on edge right now, right? So what I would do is I would offer cooking classes. And I would do that as low cost as possible. I would start a Facebook group with cooking classes for my customer base that's existing. And before I did all that work though, I would just post a simple question like I've got listed here. Who else has been blank? So my question would be, in this situation, who else has been trying to figure out how to cook a good meal? Who else has been trying to figure out how to cook a great meal on a budget for their family? So these questions that are related to that problem people had when they were coming to your restaurant, ask questions like that. Just pull your audience. Now let's pretend that I had a very small restaurant, but I still had the great ambiance, customer service, all that stuff. But I had a very small restaurant, so I hadn't yet created a social media following. I was still just relying on word of mouth in my local neighborhood. That's still fine. You can still do this. What you do is you go on something like Facebook. And by the way, I'm going to mention a lot of various sites and softwares and stuff on this session, but I'm not endorsing anybody. I'm just trying to focus on the lowest cost possible for you to get started with this stuff. So I would go on Facebook as a very small restaurant. And what I would do, I would find local Facebook groups around the type of food I was offering. So let's say it was a Mexican restaurant. I'm going to find local groups here in Houston on Facebook of people that like Mexican food. Then I can go in those groups. I can see what kinds of things people are asking. They might also just be posting things about, I really miss that great Mexican dish I used to get at this restaurant. And you say, oh yeah, I've tried that too. That's really good. Have you tried this dish from our restaurant? And by the way, we're offering some classes to teach you how to make this dish yourself. That's going to start driving those people to your Facebook group that you set up, your private Facebook group, where you can start collecting those customers. Once we get a response from people, so whether that's existing customer base and we're just kind of asking them these questions of what they actually want, what they're needing, or if we're reaching out on those different Facebook groups locally and figuring out what new people want, we want to start identifying, okay, who's saying yes to us? Because we don't want to waste time with people that are just liking the post. We want to work with the people that are saying yes, or here's my problem. Those are the people that are more engaged. And more engaged people usually on social media turn into customers as long as you nurture them properly. Once we've identified those individuals, we want to segment them. So it could be done a couple of ways, depending on what you're using. If you're using Facebook, you can add those people as friends and then separate them on a separate friends list. So you know that, okay, these people on this friends list here are my potential customers. You could also just put them all in a private Facebook group, right? So you could segment them out different ways, but you want to make a list of them. I've even heard some business owners just creating a Google Sheet and typing in the person's name, putting a link to their profile, putting the answer that they responded on the question, just putting all that data in one spot. After you get them to tell you like what they need, then you want to ask them, if I created this thing, would you actually want to do it, right? Because a lot of people may answer your question, but they may not actually pull out that credit card or their payment processing and actually pay you for something. So you want to ask them, if I created this thing, would you be interested in it? So let's go back to our restaurant example. I'm going to ask people, who else has been missing their favorite Mexican food dish? Once people respond to that and say, me, what I'm next going to ask is, if I created a video training on, or if I did some Zoom calls on how to create this dish from home, would you be interested in it? And then you see who said yes to that, who's actually saying yes to that. And then what you want to do next is you want to capture information. So the way I do that via like Facebook or LinkedIn or something is when I pull people like that, I will send them a message and say, okay, great. I noticed that you said you'd be interested in this. let me go ahead and tell you how to sign up. So send me your email or maybe send me your phone number. Let's talk on the phone and we'll talk about how you can get signed up for that. You don't have to have separate software, separate landing pages, all that stuff to get started with this. That's kind of my point here. You want to just do this as low cost as possible. And the easiest way to do that is to do it by building those relationships. So ask them a question first, identify those gaps, then ask them, once they've responded, ask those people, if I created this thing to fix the problem, would you even be interested in it? And then we want to figure out a way to capture some contact information from them as we tell them how to go ahead and get signed up. So real quick, if that was something new to you, go ahead in the chat or the QA section, just let us know you learned something new real quick. So I want to stay on this for just a second on the gap and how to think through that. So I'm going to give another scenario here of something that me as a customer, I've experienced and have a problem right now that needs solved. So if you're a person out there with a business on what I'm going to mention in a second, guess what? You've got someone right here that is wanting to buy this type of thing that I'm going to talk through. So for me, right before COVID-19 struck, I got a haircut. I was fortunate to, my gut feeling just kind of told me like, you should get a haircut, right? And so I haven't looked too bad, but I can tell I need a haircut. What I haven't found though, is I haven't found a stylist online at all on social media that's actually created something to tell me how to cut my own hair from home. I have clippers, I have a razor, I have scissors, I even have, you know, some razors I shave with. So I have kind of the basic tools I need, but I don't have anyone to actually show me how to do all that. Because the last time I cut my own hair with a razor, I had like a chunk missing out over here. There's like a long stripe down here. And it just looked terrible. And I had to wait until it grew out back again to actually get it fixed. It was just that bad. So I don't want to go through that again because I present, as we kind of talked about, I teach courses for a lot of people and I don't want to look bad on camera. So I can't afford really to mess up my hair. So I need someone that can teach me that. So when we talk about identifying gaps, we're just thinking through, if you're a business owner right now, what are you currently doing to solve a problem? And then just think of a way to adapt that online, right? So if you're a hairstylist and you normally rely on people coming in person and you cut their hair and then they go about their day, just take that online. Show people how to do that themselves. Yes, there might be some people that will say, you know what? I don't need a hairstylist ever again because what I did is I learned how to do it myself and I'm never going back to a hairstylist. But the reality is most of us don't want to spend the time, even if we learn how to do something, we don't want to spend the time to have to do it, right? Like, yes, I could probably figure out how to cut my own hair and do that for the rest of my life. But for me, it's a lot easier to go ahead and just have someone else do it. That's all they do. They specialize in that and I'm happy to hand over my money. So you need to think through when we're identifying gaps, think through these things that your customers that are getting a problem solved with you, what else could you solve for them right now? Now it could be totally unrelated to what you're doing, right? You may have and I'll give another example here. There's a young woman I know that her business involved doing a healthcare procedure in person. So it was a non-invasive procedure, but it required her to be in person one-on-one with the client. And that was pretty much the majority of her revenue, was that particular thing in her business. But she got COVID-19 coming and now she can't go in person to meet people. So what do? Well, you can either kind of freeze up like a lot of people do, or you can take action. So she became innovative. She thought back to herself, okay, well, people coming to me for this procedure, they have a focus on their health and their wellness. And so I already kind of educate them during the procedure on health and wellness and everything. What else can I do? So what she's doing now, she's identified that a lot of people, not just her traditional customer base, but a lot more people are trying to become healthier because of COVID-19. They're becoming more health conscious. They're using things like CBD oil, they're using smoothies, they're using things like sea moss, et cetera, right? They're just becoming more health conscious. And she recognized this. And so now what she does, one of the many things that she does is she sells sea moss. And she sells various combinations of sea moss that really give some good anti-inflammatory and immune boosting things in there, right? Nutrients in there. So she's been very successful at that. In fact, I myself am a customer, right? I'm actually buying her stuff because she's been able to pivot from her traditional business that required in person. Now think about after COVID-19. Think about the fact that she's able to take what she's doing now and she now has another revenue stream even after COVID-19 gets out of our way, right? She's able to go back, seeing patients, doing the procedure, but she also is selling this stuff on the side, and you never know. That thing on the side might be the thing that takes her business to the next level. So you really have to just think outside the box. Now, if you're someone listening here on this session and you don't have a business at all, but maybe you've been laid off or furloughed, or you're just trying to start something to build money online, think through the same thing. What are some of the gaps that you identify? What are some of the problems that you are having? And then figure out, do you have the skill set to solve that problem? And if not, just identify some of the skill sets you do have and figure out problems related to that that you can solve for people, because people still have money, people are still buying, but we just have to figure out how can we adapt that to the online world. So once we've figured out what we're actually going to be solving for them, right? Like what's that problem? What's that gap that we've identified? And we ask them, would you actually buy this? If it's an online type of training, and even if it's not, we just need to figure out a way to communicate, like, how do they get started, right? So I talked earlier about sending them a message and saying, hey, here's how you get signed up. Send me your email and I'll send you an invoice, and, you know, or I'll send me your phone number and we'll chat on the phone real quick. We'll talk about it, make sure it sounds good to you, and then I'll send you the invoice. And you're just communicating, right? You're letting them know what's that next step in the process. So one of the key things we want to do, especially if we're doing like online classes, like if we're going to have those online cooking classes, we need to be transparent with people on when does it actually start. So we realistically shouldn't be saying, well, I'm going to start classes in June. Nobody's probably going to pay for that because it's so far out. So you want to be realistic here and say, we're going to start classes next Monday. So make sure you sign up by Sunday so I can make sure you're in the group and you can start the classes with us. But no worries if you're not, because if you get signed up even on Monday or after that, we record everything and we're going to put all that in the private Facebook group so you can come back to it later. So just offer those things, but communicate that to people on exactly when this is going to start, whatever this thing is. It could be that you're a restaurant and you're going to offer a delivery service now. And so you just want to communicate, okay, well, when does the delivery start? When are the delivery days? What days of the week are you going to deliver to people so they have an expectation? Are you going to make it where people can come to a location and pick it up? Or do you send your employees out to deliver at these locations? And what time frames do you deliver in? Because maybe you don't want to deliver, especially in Houston, a lot of neighborhoods, you don't want to deliver late at night, right? So just keep that in mind. You want to communicate everything as much as possible, even more than you traditionally do offline. We also want to tell people what else do they need to do. So if we go back to our example of the online training to teach people how to cook because they can't come to the restaurant anymore, we want to tell them exactly what to do in our private Facebook group. So we say, start here, do this, right? We have a video that tells them that. We maybe have a checklist that they can download. We put everything in there so when somebody comes into that group, they see all sorts of ways to figure out exactly what they need to do. There's a step here, it tells them step one is this. They see something else that says step one is this. They see something else that says step one is this. So everything tells them step one is this, step two is this, step three is this. And what you're going to find when you do it that way, especially online, is that you're going to reduce, number one, complaints that you get. You're also going to help them and give them more value because they fully are taking advantage of what you're offering. The other thing with identifying those gaps is we want to meet their needs. So what I mean by that is we talked a little bit about the restaurant idea and teaching those cooking classes, but we want to create some videos that also show them, like, what are we doing? How do you log into Zoom? You'd be amazed. Some people have no clue how to do that, right? Probably everybody on this call is on the session knows how, but there are people that don't know how. So how do you log into Zoom? How do you navigate Zoom? How do you do chat or whatever in Zoom? How do you ask questions? Do the same thing with like your Facebook group. How do you ask questions in the Facebook group? If you're collecting people on other social media platforms, how do people send messages on LinkedIn? How do you show them how to do that? How can they reach you? Show them everything. Show them a video. They want to see the human on camera. The reason I keep talking about Facebook groups is because the community aspect, right? There's a concept in the online education world and also offline, but it's called network effects is the whole concept. And a lot of these platform sites use it. especially social media. It's basically shows us that we can do a collaboration of people. If we put people together, they're going to collaborate on things. They're going to help each other. They're going to go off on totally different topics, but they're going to show the humanity there and people really connect. That builds a strong community. That's what we want for this. We don't want to just get people to sell them something. We want to build a strong community, because then we have those raving, loyal fans of our company that we can sell stuff to later on and give them more value. So always think long-term when you're thinking through this stuff. You want to really build that community, really keep them engaged. You can ask a lot of questions in your Facebook group. You can say, what's everyone's #1 challenge with COVID-19 right now? And let people just post it. You can put something like, does anybody have a family member that's ill, or a friend that they know that's ill with the disease? Ask those questions. Don't make it all about selling your thing in those Facebook groups. Make it more about, we care about you. And legitimately care. Don't just do that because I'm saying it. Like, actually care about what happens to your customers, because that's going to make you more money long term. When we talk about clarity, yes, we're talking about some clarity on, okay, what they should do, et cetera, but really about clarity on what they need to do to be successful. So what do I mean by that? I'm talking about things, if we go back to our cooking class example, what do they need to do? So what do they need to buy? Do they need to buy a skillet? Do they need to buy a spatula? You can tell I'm not really a cook, right? But what kind of things do they need to buy? Are there certain spices, etc.? And then we want to empower people. We want to encourage them to be successful in that group, especially, and say, look, who's having a challenge with this? Who has questions on this thing we just covered? Let people respond to that, and just really, really kind of empower them to participate more and learn from you and get more value from you. So I want to pause there for a second, real quick, in the chat or QA. Just let us know if you're learning something new in this session so far. So just type in there real quick, I'm learning something new, or learning something, or yes, I am. Anything like that, just let us know that you're learning something new. So once we've identified and met their needs and we filled that gap and everything, we also want to think through, what's that next thing? And when I talk about what's that next thing, we really want to focus on a question that I've got listed here. How else can we give them value? So there's a concept in the digital marketing space called the value ladder, especially when we talk about things like funnels. And don't worry about what funnels are. We'll touch on that just a little bit in this session, but it's really not a deep dive. But the value ladder is basically, we're figuring out where's the ultimate level we can take them, or even what's the next thing we can offer them, right? So think of a ladder in your head, or a set of stairs on a staircase. We're taking them from one step to the other, right? They're going up the stairs, and every step they go on, they get the most value. Let's say that you like eating donuts, and let's say that your favorite donut shop is at the top of a long flight of stairs. I haven't seen one yet like that, but maybe there is one out there. And so you have to go up these stairs to get the donut that you really love. Every step you take, you get more value, right? You're getting closer to that value because you want to get that donut. Similar concept here. We want to take them every step up the ladder to give them more value. So think about what's the next thing. Let's go back to our restaurant example, because that's actually a really good example, especially here in Houston. People like to eat a lot. And so what's our next thing? Well, we're teaching people how to cook, right? We're teaching them how they can make a simple meal from home. That's one of our restaurant meals with a skillet and just a couple of other ingredients. But what you're going to find is that there's going to be people out there, especially like me, that I don't feel like going to the grocery store. So now you've got a next thing, right? Let's say that you've got a bunch of food and stuff in stock that you just have to get rid of anyways, or it's going to spoil. Well, guess what? Now you pre-bundle those things together and you offer that as delivery. So now people can take your video training on how to make that meal, plus they get the meal delivered to them and they just have to cook it. So you've added a next thing there that's a natural progression, right? It's the next itch, so to speak, that they would normally be wanting to scratch, and you've done that for them. So for myself, if I was still a single guy, you scratched 2 itches that I would have had. Number one, I don't know how to make my own food. I don't know how to cook. And then number two, I don't feel like going to the store to be around people that are probably going to cough on me just to get these ingredients that maybe the store doesn't even have right now. So if you can offer me just here it is, here's the delivery, and all I have to do is watch your video, put the oven on, we'll just say 400 degrees, and put it in for 20 minutes, and I'm done and I can eat, I'm going to buy that, right? I honestly don't care what the price is. I'm probably going to buy that no matter what. So just think through, what's the next natural thing that you could sell someone? So when we talk about what to sell, let's kind of dive into this a little bit more. We've talked about if you're a business owner out there and how do you identify the gap? What are you doing now? And what are the things that you're not solving with people not being able to see you in person? But let's say that you still can't figure that out. So there's an activity I have people do when I teach them how to build online courses. And I ask them to think of what are you good at? And the activity is you get a piece of paper or your phone or your laptop or whatever, however you want to jot it down. But what you're going to do is you're going to jot down 10 to 20 ideas of things you're good at. It doesn't matter what it is. The purpose here is to brainstorm on this exercise. So brainstorm is all this is. Jot down 10, 20 things. If you only get 3 things, that's fine. But go back to that list a couple hours later and see if anything else kind of stirs up. Think through everything that you're possibly good at, because a lot of times as business owners especially, we learn different skills that we can use, that we can monetize, but we don't think about them. So as an example, I build a lot of online courses. So I'm pretty decent at video editing, like basic video editing. I'm good at editing audio. I'm good at building PowerPoint slides for courses. I'm good at using various screen recording software. So there's a lot of things I could do with that, right? So if I needed money in my business, I would start outsourcing and saying, look, I can do this thing for you. I can edit your videos for your YouTube channel. I can edit those Facebook Lives that you're doing, and I'm going to charge you this amount, and then I'll edit those videos. And then, hey, by the way, I have, for example, a software I use is ClickFunnels, where I can build like membership sites and stuff. So I might say to them, hey, look, let's kind of exchange things here. So you pay me X amount of dollars. What I'll do is I'll edit all the videos from your Facebook Lives that you do. You just send them to me. I'll take care of all of that. Or your Zoom calls, I'll take care of all of that. And then what we'll do is I'll put up a membership site for you. And then you can tell your students, here's where all the videos are in one spot. And so you're winning because you can then put like a sales page at the front of that and use that later on, right? And then I'm winning because I'm getting paid by you to do that. So it's kind of a win-win for both of us. So think through those things you're good at, kind of jot those down and make a little list of those, and then think through what you can actually monetize, because we all have a lot of good ideas sometimes, and they're not always the best ideas. So as an example, if you want to teach people how to, so let's just say pre-COVID-19, if you wanted to teach people how to do sewing, probably wasn't a popular thing, right? Probably wasn't going to make you a lot of money. However, now if you teach people how to do sewing from home to sew masks, you might actually make some money. So think about it in context of like what will actually sell now, as well as what happens when COVID-19 ends and what topics on this list could I sell at that time, because they're a little more relevant after COVID-19. So the whole purpose there is brainstorm that list, make sure you've got a list of things if you can't figure out what the gaps actually are. The other thing you can do is do some market research, right? You should be doing that anyways, but let's say you don't know how to do that. The simplest way to do market research is to go on like Amazon, for example, and start searching for things. So if you have an idea of something that you want to sell or that you think people might want, go on Amazon and type whatever the keyword is. So as an example, let's say I wanted to maybe create something around weight loss. So I'll type in like weight loss on Amazon, I'll put a space and then I'll put the letter A, and I'll see what other things people are searching for, and I'll make a little note of those. I'll take the A out and put the letter B, and I'll go through the entire alphabet with my keywords and those alphabet letters to see how people are searching for things. Because I might see something there that sparks an idea that says, oh, that's how people are looking for it, right? So as an example, Mark, when he introduced me, mentioned I'm a certified ethical hacker. When I look for the actual terminology in the industry, it's called penetration tester, right? The good hackers are penetration testers. But if you do like keyword searching and stuff, you'll find that most people aren't searching for that. They're looking for hacking, right? They want to be a hacker. So if I was creating something to teach people, right? If that was something I thought of in my business to teach people on hacking, I'm going to put it as hacking on how I label the Facebook group and stuff like that, because that's how people are searching. So don't try to be fancy with that market research. Just go see how people are searching for things. And the good thing about Amazon that I like to use them as part of it for is because they're only going to show you what people are buying. They're not going to show you random things like Google search or whatever. They're going to show you what people are actually buying on their site, because they want you to buy some of it, right? So that's a good place to go to see what people are actually searching for and what they're actually buying. So we've talked a lot about how do you identify gaps? How do you figure out like what you're going to sell, that sort of stuff. Well, we talked a little bit also about how we're actually going to build it, right? How are we going to do this? And I mentioned Facebook groups again, just because they're so simple to set up. You can set one up after this call. You can set up a Facebook group. It doesn't take that long if you don't already have one. The key though with the Facebook group is you want to start by asking those questions first of the people that you know or your existing customer base. And then you kind of understand how people are responding and the words they're using. And then you can more appropriately name your Facebook group, right? So you wouldn't name your Facebook group something like Superfragilisticexpialidocious, right? Because nobody's going to be searching for that in Facebook. But let's say that you're teaching people how to cook meals on a budget during COVID. You probably can't put COVID in there because Facebook will ban you, but what you can do is put how to cook meals on a budget for less than $20, right? That could be the name of your Facebook group. And then people come and they search in Facebook and they find your group. So just think through it like that. Make it very simple for people. So we talked about social media. You don't have to do Facebook. It's just one that I recommend a lot of people do. But if you want to use Instagram, TikTok, whatever you are more comfortable with that you think is going to be, that's going to work better for you, definitely feel free to use that. I just have found that Facebook groups by far for something like we're talking about on the session, something like that where you're doing like online courses or something like that and you don't want to have to host them yourself, Facebook's by far one of the best options. You can also use things like a landing page. So if you don't know what that is, basically a landing page, the sole intent of a landing page is for you to get something from me in exchange for you giving me your contact information. So maybe I give you my free checklist to stay safe in COVID-19. And in exchange for that, you give me an email address and then I can email you stuff later on. Or maybe you give me a phone number or phone number and email. Or it's possible I put a button on there where you sign up for my Facebook Messenger, right? And I have a chat bot or something that kind of communicates with you automatically. So the landing page is not something you have to have for what we're talking about in this session, but it is an option if you have some budget available. To hire a web developer to build like a separate landing page, I wouldn't do that. I wouldn't recommend that unless you have someone that you trust that is pretty reasonable on their cost. But otherwise, if you have any number of softwares out there like ClickFunnels, for example, or Lead Pages, or if you got something like an email autoresponder, which if you don't know what that is, it's basically just an automatic way to send emails. And a lot of them like MailChimp, GetResponse, ConvertKit, etc., they offer the ability to create simple landing pages, right, as part of your monthly subscription. So just think through that. What's in your budget? If you don't have any budget right now, then you want to go social media and keep it as low cost as possible. And then most importantly, you want to give people a way to pay you, right? Because what's the point in doing all this? Like, we're not in business to have a nonprofit. Even a nonprofit makes money, right? We're in business to make a profit, most business owners out there. So you need to make money. You need to be able to get a way to pay you. And even for the people watching this session that don't have a business right now, you still need to think of how people can pay you. So it could be things like PayPal, right? Cash App, it could be Stripe, could be Square. So there's any number of different ways to get paid. So just, I probably wouldn't recommend Bitcoin, right? Stuff like that, but just kind of stick with more of the mainstream things to get your money and just offer multiple ways for people to pay because some people don't want to use PayPal. So maybe you can sign up for Square and use that. Or you can tell them, well, if you don't want to use PayPal, you can do Cash App. So I want to pause here real quick. Just go ahead, same thing as before, in the QA or the chat, just post who's learning something new right now. Just say, yes, I'm learning something new, or yes, I am, to let us know that you're actually learning something new on this session. So let's talk a little bit about cost, and we're going to break down some cost here. So do you need a new website? The answer is no, flat out no there. You don't need a new website to get all this stuff going at all. Now, as you start making more money and you determine like, you know what, I want to have this outside of Facebook, which I do recommend eventually, then you can start exploring those costs. But you don't need a new website. You definitely don't need to pay some developer like $2,000 to build a website for you because you're just going to be wasting your money. You need to prove that this actually sells first. Some people are going to have a marketing budget. Some people won't. I will say that if you have a marketing budget right now, Facebook ads are pretty low cost if you know what you're doing. So you can, a lot of times you can run ads right now during COVID. You can get your ad spend below like $1 per lead. So it's pretty good right now. But if you don't have a marketing budget, just do it all organically. I mentioned chatbot earlier. All a chatbot is if you don't know what they are, is they're just automatically doing the communication for us, right? So we have a series of like questions and it's kind of like an if-then thing, right? If they say yes to this, then we give them this question. If they say yes to this or they say no to this, we give them this question. That's all a chatbot is doing. It's kind of doing that if then. And so what we do with that is really just automating the communication stream. You don't need that though. You just have to invest some time right now. If you don't have the budget for like a chatbot, you don't need to worry about setting that up. Just get started on getting people and getting sales. Don't worry about all these technical things that make it all pretty and save you time and stuff like that. Just focus on actually doing it right now. And then we already talked about email autoresponders. So let's talk about some cost on these real quick. Marketing, I mentioned Facebook ads are pretty cheap right now. For $100 budget, maybe weekly or biweekly, or even monthly, you can get some good traction to your stuff. But again, make sure that you've already got an offer and stuff that people actually want. Chatbots, I'm familiar with ManyChat. There's some other ones out there. Usually it's less than $20 a month for their subscription. They have a free version as well. So, that might be an option to check out. ManyChat is the name of that, ManyChat. And there's a lot of them out there. Just search chatbot for Facebook or something, and you'll find a lot of them. Email autoresponders, generally speaking, are anywhere, they've got free versions that you can just sign up for free, and that's fine for what you're doing right now. But if you want to be able to build like landing pages, then you're probably looking anywhere from like $15 to about $30 a month. So just thinking through some of those costs. Again, keep the cost as low as possible. That's one of the mistakes I made when I first started out online. I tried to do all these fancy things and I was just spending money like crazy, but I wasn't making any money, right? So there's no point in spending a lot of money if you're not going to make money. So keep this as low cost as possible as you're doing this stuff. Make sure you're actually selling first, taking those payments, getting the feedback from people on the next thing they want, and then you can start thinking through, how do I automate all of this? Now, by all means, if you have the budget for this stuff, feel free to go ahead and do it. But for those out there that are really economically hit by COVID-19, try to do it the low cost way initially and get some sales, and then you can worry about doing all the fancy stuff later. So we talked a little bit about relationships in customers. Let's talk about how to nurture those long-term. So we already talked about chatbots. It's just a way for you to automatically communicate with people and nurture them without you having to sit there and type a bunch of messages back and forth. Social media and social media groups. We talked a lot about Facebook groups. I mentioned the community aspect. I talked about that network effects, right? Network effects. Again, that's that collaboration that makes people want to show off to each other, that makes people want to help each other. They answer questions, they ask questions, they post their challenges, they share things from their personal life. These are the things you want to do, and nurturing them, this is part of that. Allowing them a community where they can collaborate with each other, this is really going to help you grow your business. Email nurturing, again, going into the autoresponder stuff, right? That's where we talk about the nurturing via email, but you can also manually send them emails and just say, hey, I want to check in on you, make sure everything's okay. I know you're in the Facebook group. Thanks again for joining and signing up, but we just want to check in on you, see how everything's going. Many people don't check their emails every day. So if you don't have a good subject line that kind of captures their attention, so we call it a hook. If it doesn't hook them, right, then they may not open your email. So a good way to get a hold of people is most people check their text messaging. So get their phone number and then just ask them like, can we send you text messages to check in every so often and see how you're doing? Most people will say yes to that, right? And then you can text them and they'll be more likely to actually respond to you. And then video calls, right? Just like we're doing now in a session, do Zoom or GoToMeeting or whatever. And by the way, Zoom is generally safe to use depending on what you're doing. I just wanted to throw that out there since I do cybersecurity as well. You just need to be mindful of the different security settings that are available to you. So video conferencing or video call software things are generally safe to use. It's just you need to take advantage of some of the fundamental things that they have available for you to use to protect against those nefarious people from coming in. So we've talked about a lot of information. If you're still learning something, go ahead and post in the chat real quick or the QA section, say, I'm still learning something new. I like this stuff. Let us know if you like it or not, and we'll have more of these. Let's talk about an actual action plan now. We've talked about a lot of information, but a lot of it's high level information, right? So it's like, okay, well, what do I do? Well, you've got 3 main things you're going to do, and you're going to have this done this week. So I don't want to hear excuses about, oh, I have a job, it's full time, oh, I'm trying to focus on my business. These are things that maybe you need to get up an hour earlier or go to bed an hour later, but just focus on. I want everyone that's watching this session to have something up by the end of this week. I want you to have found those people, right? So I want you to ask those questions we talked about earlier to identify those gaps. I want you to find who's interested in that particular thing. I want you to create a private Facebook group around that. right? So find those people, create that group, create your offer, which is step 2, right? So find those people, ask those questions, create that Facebook group, then create that offer for them that you're going to be selling them. Think through that additional thing that you could sell them, right? What's that next level thing you could offer them value on? And then finally continue to nurture them, right? So all of these three main steps here, this is stuff that you should have up by the end of the week. So whether you're using Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, whatever other social media you want to use, have that stuff, have it up, and have people actually, at a minimum, try to get one sale by the end of this week. Might be kind of tough, you know, some people are waiting for payday, whatever. That's fine, I get it. But try to at least have one sale by the end of this week. So again, step number 1, which you should do right after this session. Now, I get that some people are probably at work right now, or they've got some client meetings or whatever. That's totally fine. Just make sure you budget it and get it done today. And that's going on social media, finding those people, right? So step number 1, finding those people, asking them those questions that we talked about earlier to gauge, like, what are the things that they're having trouble with right now? What are some of those gaps that they're having that they need you to fill for them? Because if you don't do it, your competition is going to, right? If you don't do it, your competition will. So you want to fill those gaps. You want to be the go-to resource, or quote unquote, the thought leader for your particular market. So they say, you know what, Stacy, every time there's a crisis, Stacy is right there. She figures out what we need. She helps us out. I'm going to refer everybody I know to Stacy. Instead of Ken, he doesn't do anything, you know, he doesn't care. He's just trying to hunker down and wait out COVID-19, right? He's not doing anything, right? So I'm not going to go to him. I'm going to refer everybody to Stacy. So again, 3 steps here. Find those people, figure out what they actually need, create the offer for them, and then continue nurturing them even after the sale, because you want to be able to give them more value later with other things, especially things that you identify are additional problems that they're having as they use your first couple of things. So we talked about in the session, where do we start? What can you actually sell? Again, you've got to kind of brainstorm things, because you've got a business that I don't know about. And so you might have things that I'm not thinking through on your particular business of stuff you can do, right? So for example, let's just touch on like realtors real quick. If you're a realtor out there, yes, you sell homes, right? We all kind of get that. Maybe you sell commercial properties. Yes, that's ordinary and average, right? What else can you do? Well, there's probably people that are first-time home buyers that need to know what are some of the costs that they should be expecting in that first year. And so before they come to you and they buy that home, can you create a short video series on these are the 10 costs that you should expect to have in your first year of home ownership? And can you also make it where you break it down by, if you purchase a home from 0 to $250,000, these are some of the common things that we see our clients having expenses on in the first year. And from $250,000 to $500,000, these are the expenses, right? So think through that as like a realtor, for example. What can you put online? How can you educate people on these things that they're going to have these problems, right? Maybe they don't have those problems until they buy the home, but they're still going to have those problems. And so you want to be able to put that content out there and monetize it. And you don't have to charge $1 million for this stuff, right? You can have a $10 course that you sell people, but that could also be something that they use to evaluate you as, is this person an expert, right? Is this a realtor that I should go to buy my home? The other thing I would say with realtors is do virtual listings if you're not already. Go in those homes and make it exciting for people. Don't just say, oh, we've got this 3-bedroom, 2-bath house. Everyone's doing that. You don't want to do that. Go in there and be like, oh, can you imagine your kids playing in this backyard? Can you imagine soaking in this wonderful, beautiful tub right here? Can you imagine this game room stocked with all your kids' favorite games? Oh, look at all the space for your dog to run. And by the way, this is near the best schools in this city. Think through it like that. Like, make people excited about your stuff and give them what they need right now. Don't give them what you want to give them. Give them what they need right now. People need it virtually. They're not going to come in person usually to you unless they need to sign some paperwork. Give them what they need. Meet them where they're at is essentially what we call it in the digital marketing space. Meet people where they're at. Don't try to get all fancy. Just meet them exactly where they're at. We talked about how do you actually build this stuff? How do you get this stuff going? We talked about some of the realistic costs. Again, I don't want you spending a lot of money. That I'm not going to tell you you should use this software or you need to hire a web developer and all this stuff. Keep it as low cost as possible because you never know what's actually going to sell. I'll share another story real quick. I spent like almost a year filming my very first course, and I spent money on software and all these things to film my first course online. I thought it was going to be a bestseller. I made $16 after putting in a year's worth of effort to get that course out because the course was terrible because nobody wanted it, right? Nobody wanted that subject. So you need to try things and see what's selling, what people actually want, because maybe the restaurant idea I had of cooking, of teaching people how to cook meals, maybe they don't want that, right? Maybe they just want you to cook it and deliver it for them. So you have to adapt. And the way you stay nimble and adapt is you keep everything low cost so you can make the maximum amount of profit. And then we also talked about how to nurture your customers. So how do you reach me? There's probably a lot of questions that, especially from people that might be watching the replay of this. How do you actually reach me? Many ways to do that. You can reach me at ken@knltech.com. You can reach me through our website at www.knltech.com. You can reach us on Facebook, again, KNL Tech. LinkedIn, you can find me on there. You can also go to KNL Tech on LinkedIn. We're on there as well. So a lot of ways to reach me. Just remember K&L Tech, and you'll be able to find me across social media. So I'm going to stop the share real quick, and we're going to open it up for questions that people may have on the session. All right, so I'm just taking a look real quick through the Q&A, and I see a lot of people commented full-time side hustle, help me, and hopefully this information is helpful to you. There's a lot of information we covered, and hopefully it's going to help some of you out. By the way, again, you can reach out to me with any questions you have. I'm happy to answer those. 1099 job, okay, cool. So let's see, okay, I see some different answers there. I'm going to scroll through this Q&A real quick and just see if there's some specific things. So I see someone mentioning their HVAC contractor. So what I would do, and it's not really a question, it's just for mentioning their business. I would actually, and I'll share another story real quick. So my mechanic, he's a mobile mechanic, and we kind of talked about like what he could do during COVID-19, because a lot of people don't want a stranger showing up with, you know, full gear and everything like that, trying to fix their car, right? People are kind of paranoid right now. So I told them, create courses on how people can repair their cars from home. So I'm saying that because as an HVAC contractor, what I would say is show people how to repair their AC from home, because they probably don't want to call somebody right now. Show them some basic things they can do to do like maintenance. So maybe they can prevent a lot of issues when COVID-19 ends. So I know you didn't really ask a question there. I didn't see that as a question, but kind of think through that. If you're thinking through like, what else can we do to make money? That's an idea. Create some online courses around that, or have a private Facebook group around that to teach those people how to do those things from home. I see someone's a life coach. So you've kind of got it, you're kind of in a good space in the aspect of you probably are already pretty much virtually. If you're not, you've got a good kind of business to just go ahead and create it virtual. Your biggest challenge right now, and I don't know if this is true, Eve, that's who posted that in the chat. I don't know if this is true or not in your particular business, but I know one of the biggest challenges for coaches right now is a lot of times they're normally working with like executives and stuff, and a lot of people are more mindful of their budgets right now, especially B2B. So you may have some challenges there, but just get creative with what you're doing. You might create courses on teaching people how to become a life coach and talk about your trials and struggles and that sort of stuff, and how you've made money and been successful at it. So there's always a way to sell something. You just have to kind of think outside the box. So I'm going to go through some more of the Q&A here and see if there's anything else here. So a lot of people learning something new. That's great. That's awesome. Very, very excited about that. Someone had a question. What's the pay system that I mentioned? So there's a lot of them you can use, and a lot of name brand ones, right? Things like PayPal, Stripe is another one I use in my business. Square, they do Square Reader and stuff, but you can usually sign up for an account. I don't think you have to be a business necessarily. I think personal people can take payments as well. I also mentioned Cash App or any number of apps where people can send you money. I did mention probably staying away from Bitcoin just because it's anonymous. You kind of want a paper trail for something like this, especially if you're selling through social media, because you never know who's really on the other end of that thing. They could be kind of scammy. So you want a paper trail. So use one of those reputable ones. And also people are more comfortable if you say like, yeah, you could just send me it through PayPal, right? Or I'll send you a PayPal invoice or a Square invoice or something. They're more likely to sign up because you look like you're more legitimate than if you just say, oh yeah, just, leave me a cash envelope out of my backyard or at the end of the street, and then I'll pick that up and then we'll do business. People are kind of, it just sounds sketchy. So use the reputable, ones like that. Another question is, what is TikTok? So TikTok is just another type of social media. So it's basically short videos that people film when they get views and stuff like that. So it's just another social media platform. My philosophy on social media platforms is a little different than most people. If your customers, if you're a business owner and your customers aren't on these social media platforms, I would say master the one where your customers are, and then you can spread out to these other ones like TikTok and stuff like that. If your customers aren't on TikTok, because it's a lot of millennials and the younger generation on TikTok, then depending on your product, you may not even want to waste your time on TikTok. So TikTok, again, is just a social media app. It's just something else besides like Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, Instagram, etc. So TikTok is just another type of social media app. That's all it is. Now, there are some security concerns that people have around TikTok. I just tell people that with social media in general, if you don't want it taken by somebody, you probably shouldn't put it on social media. So, right. So if you've got private pictures that you don't want anyone else to see, you probably shouldn't upload those to social media, because it's very easy for a not ethical hacker, right? Again, Mark mentioned I'm an ethical hacker. It's very easy for a bad hacker to come in and take your information off social media. It's very, very easy to do. So if you don't want somebody to take that, just be mindful on any social media platform that if you don't want someone to take it, just don't even put it up in the first place. I'm skimming through the QA here. Somebody asked, do you recommend creating a free Wix site for website? It really just kind of depends, Chrisarla, if that's what you want to do. If you don't have a website right now, maybe you want to do that. But again, you don't need a website. When I was making my first money online, I didn't have a website. I used somebody else's stuff, right? I used, on that particular instance, I used an online course platform. So that's what I used. So I didn't have a website. So yes, you can create a website. You can use Wix or whatever. Wix sites and other sites built off that same type of code, software code, are pretty vulnerable to attack. So the free version of most things you get out there are pretty vulnerable to attacks. So just be mindful of that. So you don't need a website, but yes, it's fine to use Wix or whatever else you want to use for a website. A lot of the domain hosts, so like things like GoDaddy, they'll offer an option for you to have a website as well. So if that's something you want to do, if that's in your budget, cool to do it. But it's really just up to you in your particular situation, if that's something that you want to go ahead and invest in. Just glancing through this real quick. I have a question. So the question is, my product is not allowed to be sold, discussed, or solicited on Facebook. I'm limited on my budget at the time. I'm kind of curious, Marion, what your product is where you couldn't actually sell it on Facebook. That's interesting. I haven't heard specific products like that, but there's probably some. I would say just kind of identify where your audience congregates. So yes, maybe you can't sell it on Facebook, but what you can do is you can capture those people on Facebook and then send them to like a landing page or something, right? Or you can have them jump on a phone call with you to sell them on your thing. So I'm kind of curious that you say it can't be discussed, because I've seen some really vulgar stuff on Facebook and other social media. So I'm just, I'll say, Marion, go ahead and just reach out to me. Like I'm very curious now. You had a pretty good, what we call a hook, right? My curiosity is piqued on that particular question, because I haven't heard of anything that you can't really discuss on social media. So I'm just curious on what that is. You actually had another question right after that. What are other alternatives to lead gen or marketing? So just using social media to drive people to whatever it is you're trying to do. So you might actually just have like YouTube videos, for example, that you just need to do market research though. You need to figure out, okay, I see how people are searching for this on Amazon or YouTube or something. And then you need to go create like YouTube videos on exactly how those people are searching for that. And the name of your video is so let's say, for example, your question is, basically, how do I generate leads, right? So I would create a video on YouTube, how to generate leads in your business in 30 days or less. So people searching for how do I generate leads in my business, or how do I get leads in my business, they find your video. And then you get more views, and then you can have a link in there to whatever it is you're actually trying to sell, or you can have a link there to a Zoom call that you hold weekly where you talk people through whatever it is you're trying to sell. But Organic marketing is kind of the broad thing that I'm mentioning there, the broad topic. You just have to put yourself out there. Again, Marianne, I'm very curious on what you're selling, because it's just weird that you can't sell it on social media. So I'm very curious on what that is. And so go ahead and just reach out to me directly, and we'll try to get that figured out for you. How do you, so the next question in the chat real quick is Eric, and he's asking, how do you monetize videos that you create? Do you sell it on YouTube? Do you sell it through Facebook? So what I would do is the thing I would sell is I would sell people on the videos, and then I would tell them they're also going to get private Facebook group access. So that's what I would sell them initially, is they're going to get access to the private Facebook group. They're also going to get access to the live sessions, and then just mention that you're going to have the recordings of those in that Facebook group, right? So you don't have to try to set up a website or any of that stuff, especially if you're trying to keep costs low. So just, you're selling them on the idea of this thing will solve my problem, right? So like the cooking videos, for example, this will solve my problem. And then you sell them on that, and you say, by the way, as part of this, you get access to the private Facebook group. So you can keep asking those questions. You can watch the recordings. You can collaborate with other students. You can share your favorite recipes. You can do, all these things in that private Facebook group. I wouldn't recommend, like, you can put up YouTube videos, but I would drive them to either a landing page link from there, or I would drive them to your Facebook group. YouTube, I would really just use for marketing. I wouldn't try to, if your question was more along the lines with YouTube of, can I like monetize the YouTube channel? This isn't really what we're covering in this session. That's not really, you've got to create a lot of videos and kind of do it over time to do that. But I would use YouTube as a traffic driver. Yes, absolutely. But put them to either your landing page or your Facebook group. Have you found video editing biz useful for making money? Yeah, to some extent. Like I don't do it a lot for people because I make money other ways, but you can do video editing. You can post your services on sites like Upwork or Fiverr.com if you've never heard of those sites. So Upwork or Fiverr, Fiverr.com. A couple sites you can basically post like gig jobs, like, hey, I can do your video editing for you. You can also just reach out to, if you notice, if you follow like different people on Facebook, if you have friends list, just kind of reach out to other business owners, especially in Houston. I mentioned earlier about joining the local groups. Find some of those local groups and say, hey, I can do video editing for you. If you have a need for that, just let me know, right? So to answer your question there, Camilo, there's a lot of ways you can do it. It just kind of depends on who you're reaching out to, if they have a need for that. And then you also want to be mindful of your pricing. You may not be able to charge as much as you want to right now, just because of everything going on, but think more long-term. Like, okay, if I can either charge them this lower rate, or tell them you have an option for monthly subscription, right? And then you get them continuously every month. You'll do X number of videos that you'll edit for them. So those are some of the ways you can do that. I think that kind of ties into your other question of how do you monetize videos. I kind of answered that before regarding Eric's question there. So let's see here. Any ideas for those who offer legal services, for example, lawyers? So that's Albert's question. Yeah, absolutely. So with lawyers, I would go through some of the common things your clients are asking about when you actually meet them, and then just put those in a video, right? Say, I'm a real estate attorney, and many of the contract questions our business clients have are this. And so if you have these questions, we're going to answer these in live sessions. Again, I can't, because you're not a client, I'm not going to offer you legal advice, but I'm just going to explain these different things for you. I know someone that's an attorney here in Houston, and she's been creating a lot of videos around COVID-19 to explain a lot of the things, especially around the Small Business Association and economics and the impact and all this stuff. She's explaining a lot of things and breaking it down. So yes, absolutely. But you just have to kind of think outside the box. Think about what people need from you right now, and just make that into videos. Just make that into Zoom sessions or GoToMeeting sessions or whatever software you want to use. Warwick, you had a question on how to set up a Facebook group page. You literally just have to log into your Facebook and click that you want to create, I think is the button. And then you can create a Facebook group. But just Google that, Warwick. And then you can get step-by-step instructions. If you have questions on that though, if you're still having trouble, just reach out to me. Perry has a question. I know we're getting low on time here. Perry has a question. How can I increase sales? That's kind of a broad question because you need to basically find the right people, right? Then you need to identify the problem those people are having. You need to create a solution for that problem. And then you need to convince those people that your solution is kind of the best. So how can I increase sales is a really broad thing that a lot of business owners have trouble with, especially online. And the short answer is start off with market research. By far, the more time you spend on market research and identifying exactly who that customer is, exactly what their needs are, you're going to save a lot of time later on. And then you'll be able to identify exactly what they need and give them exactly what they want. And then from there, over time, you'll increase your sales. So that's kind of the way to do that. Once you've figured out that organic process and you've got that working right, then you can invest in like ads to scale it to the next level. So I've got a question next up from Eva. I think we've got a few minutes left here. So Eva's question is basically, if we start without a website yet on Facebook or Instagram, we can share payment options there. So basically she doesn't have a product or website yet. Yeah, so again, going back to what we talked about in this session, start off with identifying the gap, right? So if you don't have a business yet, identify the things you're good at, and then identify people that have a need for that right now. What are their actual problems? And identify that through social media. Tap into your audiences you already have. Tap into those, your friends list, et cetera. Just start asking people questions. Say, hey, are you having trouble with this? Or what's everyone having trouble with right now? Those few questions we talked about earlier. And by the way, they're going to share out the slides with everybody. So you should get those so you can take a look and see those questions as well. But yeah, start off first with the market research part, and that's identifying who the customer is, what are they actually needing from you, and then you can start exploring the payment options. And from there, you just kind of figure out what works best for you. If you want people to just send you via Cash App, if you want people to do it through PayPal or something where you can invoice them, figure out what works best for you. I would suggest just kind of having a couple different options for people so they can say, well, I'm more comfortable using PayPal, or yeah, I think Cash App is more convenient. I want to do that. What I wouldn't do, though, kind of on your question as well, what I would not do is I would not use like the built-in payment feature on Facebook, just because Facebook traditionally has a huge history of privacy issues. And that's kind of other social media platforms have similar problems. So I wouldn't use like built-in stuff on these social media platforms, but I would direct people to an external thing to make the payment for you. So start off market research, identifying those problems, start having those conversations with people. And then when they show that, yes, I'm in, you ask them that question, right? If I created this thing, would you be interested in it? And so those people that say, yes, I would, reach out to them directly, message them, say, hey, I noticed you said, yes, you would be interested in it. I'd like to set up a quick 15-minute phone call. We'll chat about it a little more. I'll talk about how you can get signed up for that. So I never would just kind of directly message them and say, here's how you pay. I would more so make it conversational sales, not just selling. Make it conversational. And so you're basically telling them, like, let's just get on a quick call. We'll talk about how you can get signed up. Takes 15 minutes or less. And then on that call, that's where I would mention, well, you can pay through PayPal or Cash App, and I can give you that information right now, or I can send you an invoice. Someone else says, I'm a journalist, editing sound and video. Yeah, absolutely. There's a big need for that, especially what I would do if I was someone that's good at editing videos and audio. I would actually go identify people that are instructors on different platforms like Udemy, and then I would find those people on Facebook or find their Facebook pages. And then I would ask them like, hey, I know how to do video editing and sound editing pretty well. Here's some samples of what I can do. I'd like to offer you my services. Are you interested in? I'm trying to earn more money in my business for COVID-19. A lot of people, when you approach them like that, are going to give you a chance, and they'll give you some business and say, yeah, I've got 10 videos. Can you edit those? And they'll see how you do. Again, going back to that though, you probably can't charge them thousands of dollars to do that. You probably have to make it more economical for them to test you out. So that's where I would start at if I was a journalist. Camilo, excuse me. I think it's Camilo. That's how I would do it. If I was in your situation, I would go ahead and reach out to those online instructors and ask them if I could do that stuff for them. I would also go to the sites I mentioned, Upwork and Fiverr, and post my services there as well. Because you just never know who's going to book you and spend their money with you. So Eve mentions, I'm a life coach, speaker, relationship coach, board certified counselor, not virtual. Now you are, right, Eve? Now you are. So all you have to do is take all that stuff you're doing. So you're board certified counselor, cool. A couple things I would do with that. Number one, I would offer people counseling. So I would offer them a complimentary counseling session. A lot of people are stressed right now, right? So I would actually, if you're not on LinkedIn, I would go on LinkedIn. I would look at the people saying, oh no, I just got laid off. And I would reach out to those people and say, hey, I'd like to offer you a complimentary 30-minute counseling session. We can just talk through some of the things you're going through right now. And by the way, I've got a live session I do each week with everybody, kind of a group session. If you want to participate in that, it's $7 a week or $7 a month or whatever. You can cancel anytime. And that's what I would do with that part of it. You've got a lot of things you've got listed there. Speaker. If you're a good public speaker, now you've got video training you do on how can you present yourself on video? Because a lot of people, I've been in some really crazy Zoom calls over the period of time here in COVID. And a lot of people don't know how to present themselves well, especially on like webinars, right? So that's another thing I would do. So every single thing you're doing in your business, Eve, everything you're doing right now, you're actually got it pretty easy because you can put all of that stuff online immediately. So think through all those things and just kind of break down what you can teach people. And then more importantly, figure out what people really need. I would say counseling is probably one of the things, along with relationship coach that you do. Those are probably the two biggest things right now, along with like the speaker stuff. Those are the things I would kind of focus on in your business to take that online and really offer those services for people. Someone else has Jasmine has looking for ideas on how to revive, relaunch. And I'm just going to answer a few more. I think we need to wrap up here pretty quickly. So the question, basically, I'm trying to get ideas on how to revive or relaunch an existing sports apparel small business. So Jasmine, what I would do for you, I would actually make sure people even want that. So maybe it's not the sports apparel, like think through like why do people buy sports apparel, right? And if you're doing custom stuff, if you're like creating it for high school football teams or something, that's kind of a different thing. If it's something where you're just kind of selling like sports team stuff, right now there's like no sports going on. So people are unlikely to buy that. But what are some of the things you learned in the past when you had that business before you need to kind of relaunch it? What were some of the mistakes you made? That's the stuff I would focus on, because a lot of people like that are on this session are trying to relaunch a business or get a business going. What are some of the things you've gone through that you can share with others? So now you can offer them kind of coaching on the stuff you've gone through and mention that after COVID-19, you're going to relaunch this business, but you've had to adapt during COVID-19. And these are the things you're doing. So just kind of think through like what else you've been doing as part of that business, because you probably, based off that topic, that's not going to sell right now, but think through like what else could people want? And it's probably going to be around the trials and tribulations you've already gone through. And then that's something that you could probably sell. How would I introduce a brand new coffee on the current market? Delivery, hands down. If you're a local coffee thing, you need to deliver it to people. You need to offer delivery to them. And I would make it where if you've got the stock yourself, if it's not coming from like a drop shipping or whatever, or it's not coming from your facility, if you've got the inventory yourself, like in your house or something, then what I would do is I would offer a morning delivery service. So the way I would pitch it, I would say, do you fall asleep on Zoom calls, and your boss yells at you or something, right? That's kind of like some hook like that for people. And then I would say, what we offer is we offer a morning delivery of coffee. We offer a morning delivery coffee package. So kind of think through some other things you can offer them, and then get people on a subscription so they can keep paying you every single week. Make it a weekly subscription so people can cancel anytime, because you just never know where people's finances are. So if you say, oh, it's just a weekly subscription, it's $20 or whatever a week, and we'll deliver every day. You'll get fresh coffee every day to your doorstep. That's what I would do with that one. And then what that also does for you, Diego, is it establishes you as a brand that cares, that's adapting. That's how you're going to have to do it in this particular market. Because if you're launching a coffee shop right now, which I'm assuming based off what you're saying, you're probably not. But if you're doing a coffee shop, you definitely have to do delivery. But if you're doing it like online, you also want to offer delivery if you can, because that's the way you're going to make some money right now in COVID-19. I'm just going to skip through. Someone had a question on kind of how do you find like what's trending? I think the question is what's trending or emerging, and kind of creating a helping strategy for people in the group. The way you do that, like if you've already got a group of people, just ask them, what do you need right now? Just literally ask them what they need right now, and they'll tell you what they're needing. And then usually off the response, so sometimes people won't tell you exactly what they're needing, but you can usually figure out exactly what they need based off that. So like the restaurant example I gave earlier, I might tell you when I answer your question, I might tell you that, hey, I am having trouble eating right now because I can't find good food to eat. that's kind of vague, right? But maybe you realize, well, this person, or maybe my answer is actually more so of, I can't cook, and that's my answer. I just very vague, like I just can't cook, right? I don't really give you any context, but you can figure out from there, well, okay, well, this person can't cook. Maybe we can cook for them and deliver it, right? So that's how you identify that stuff. If you've already got a group of people, you just ask them what they're needing. And then based off those responses, that's usually how you can do it. Now, if you're looking for if your question is more along the lines of like, okay, I'm still trying to find people, like, so Michael, this is for you that asked the question. If you're like, how do I find these people at all? Start with the problem first. So go on like Amazon and think through, or even Google search and think through like problems people might be having right now. So maybe they can't get a haircut, or maybe they, maybe like people that get their nails done, right? Maybe they go to a place to get their nails done. So maybe you do nails and you can teach them how to do nails from home. So think through like the problems people are having because they're locked inside right now, and then just figure out those problems. And if any of those are things you can actually solve for them. Someone kind of had a question around, like, if I want to sell something from my website, what software is safe? And number one, there's no software that's ever safe. Anything can be hacked. And what's easy to use for order fulfillment, payment, sales tax, et cetera. So it sounds like you want to kind of just create like it sounded like you want to create almost like an e-commerce business, or at least take payments all through your website. We're not really covering this because that's going to be a cost for you. And so if that's in your budget, then one thing for like e-commerce, you can do like Shopify or something where it's kind of all in one. You just bolt in things and you're good to go essentially. I use ClickFunnels to run a lot of my stuff, and but again, all those have a cost with them. So just think through that. If you don't want to spend any money right now, don't put people to a website to take orders and all that stuff. Don't get all fancy. Keep it very simple and just sell them on stuff, make money, and then you can get all fancy later on. So it's kind of a broad question there, but yes, there are sites you can use. There's no one single thing I would recommend. You just kind of have to figure out whatever your business is. And that's someone anonymous that posted that, so I'm not able to throw a name out there, but whatever your business is, whatever you're trying to do, just figure out like what will work for you. So if in all in one platform, if you got the money for that, like Shopify or something to set all that up, that's cool. If you don't, then just keep it very simple. Keep it as low cost as possible and just start selling. That's the biggest thing. Like I said, my first sales online were not through a website. I didn't even have a website. I didn't even have Facebook groups or anything that I was doing. I just created a course and put it out there and people came to it. So you don't have to get all fancy on stuff. You get fancier as you get sales and kind of prove that people need stuff. What networking organization? Chris has a question, and this is probably the last one here. What networking organization for businesses do I belong to for leads and referrals? So there's not. So I'm with SCORE. I'm also a part of RMI Capital's Straight to the Top family stuff. So that's a good networking to get into. But there's not any single source I would really recommend. Like, you can join the Chamber of Commerce, stuff like that. Honestly, for organic right now, you need to go out there and kind of get your name out there, right? So go on social media, show yourself as kind of the thought leader in whatever that is. Reach out to people. You can't just like sit back and, all the leads are going to come to me magically, right? Like, that doesn't happen right now, because for like even a networking organization, you have to build those relationships and then the leads come to you, right? So like, as an example, I've got a relationship that I've built for a couple of years now, and I'm just now seeing the leads coming through from that, right? So it takes time for that. So don't focus on like, I'm going to join this networking organization and everything's going to magically work in my business. You have to put yourself out there. You have to put in a lot of organic reach. You have to do what we call the sweat equity, right? You have to put a lot of that out there right now, especially because there's a lot of noise out there from all these quote unquote gurus online. So you have to cut through all that noise. And the best way to do that is to reach out to people directly. Now, that doesn't mean that you can't join different organizations and try to tap into that, but just be realistic on things, that you can't just like join those and sit back and the leads are coming in. You have to put in the work. So, and then also, if your question is more so along the lines of like, what Facebook groups do I join? Just find things locally. So around whatever your business is. So if I was a restaurant, I'm going to find like local restaurant owners, like Houston restaurant owners. By the way, I don't know if that's a real group or not on Facebook, but I'm going to find Houston restaurant owners or Houston restaurant owner fans or whatever. And that's the groups I'm going to join because it's related to what I'm selling, right? I'm a restaurant owner. That's what I'm selling. So kind of two parts to your question that I created in my head there. One, networking organizations, you're going to have to put in the work no matter if you join anything or not. And then number two, if you're looking for Facebook groups, just find the ones around your particular topic, but look for the local groups because that's going to be easier for you to have those conversations with people here in Houston. And I'll try to grab one more here. I know we're getting low on time. I think we just have a minute or so left here. Just going to see if there's any more questions. Perry had a kind of a comment of, I'm thinking about selling used or reconditioned HVAC parts. What do I think? You've got to also, so on that question, might be great. It depends on the market. So do some market research first before you spend any money on doing that. It could be that business really takes off right after COVID because everyone's like locked out the repair people. And so everyone's going to have stuff broken right after COVID. So this might be perfect business for you to start like right as COVID pandemic and everything starts opening up right after it's ending. That might be the perfect business for you to launch, right? So just kind of do some market research right now and think through that one. I just don't have an opinion either way on that one because I haven't done any market research for you on that. So without market research, I can't answer that. But I think that something like that would probably be pretty popular right at the tail end of COVID-19, where these HVAC companies really have a need for parts and everything because everyone's kind of kept out repair people. And so now it's like, oh, my AC doesn't work, right? Or my heating doesn't work. What's going on? Now they're going to be needing a lot of parts. So that's what I would do. I would focus on market research right now and then keeping an eye on COVID and everything and figuring out when things are opening back up. And then that might be the perfect business to launch right then, right? So right now for that business, I would kind of prepare for the huge potential customer base, right? And again, that's part of the market research. Reach out to HVAC companies and say, hey, just want to touch base with you, see if you're still booking the same amount of clients right now as you were before COVID-19. If it's down, my company is going to be launching soon. And what we're doing is we're going to be selling used and we're also going to be reconditioning HVAC parts. And want to get your feedback on that, see if that's something you guys are interested in. If you have a need at that time, and instead of saying if, I would say when you have a need at that time, I'd like to be someone that we can stay connected. We can kind of monitor the COVID situation together, and I can help you in any way we can. And then when you have a need for additional parts, we'll talk more about that at that time, right? And then just kind of keep that relationship building so you can launch this thing. But you really need to do your market research, Perry. You have to figure out if that's even something that these companies are going to need at that time. I think they will, just based off everything that's happening with COVID. I think a lot of people are locked down, right? So they're not getting these repairs done usually. So it maybe you might have stumbled on a really, really good idea, but right now, in the midst of COVID, that may be a terrible idea, right? But it might be the perfect idea for a month from now or 2 weeks from now, or whenever this all ends, it might be the perfect idea to launch right then. So just do your market research on that one, and that's gonna be the best gauge. And the way I would start that, honestly, I would just reach out to HVAC companies here in Houston, even individual ones, and just say, hey, just want to kind of reach out. I've got this idea that, or don't even say it as an idea, say I've got a business I'm launching soon here in Houston. What we do is we're going to be selling used and reconditioned HVAC parts. And what I want to do is just kind of gauge from you, if you have a few minutes, to number one, see how I can help you out during COVID-19, if I can refer anyone to you, and see if you're open for business. And then number two, I want to see if your business is kind of down right now, if people are still booking you, if you're getting more people booking you, or if you think that it's going to pick back up right when COVID, kind of goes away. So I would do that market research. By far, that's going to be the number one thing before you spend any money on that type of business. But I just looking at that and kind of knowing how people are responding in COVID, I think that's probably going to be a pretty good business right after all of this ends, because I think there'll be a need for that. But again, do the market research. That's the best way to do that.
Ken, great job. Bill, thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, we had at our peak 80 people on this call today. I've known Ken for a long time, and he blessed a lot of people, but great information is worthless without the proper execution. So I hope that everyone took notes. I hope that everyone started thinking about what their next step should be. And I would encourage everyone on this call to go to houston.score.org and schedule a virtual session with a mentor. Talk about some of the things you heard today. Put a plan together. Make it happen. We have another fabulous workshop for you tomorrow. Monty Hawkins, who is the host of Fig Restoration LLC, is doing a workshop tomorrow entitled Take Control of Your Personal and Business Credit. That webinar will start at 10 a.m. on tomorrow, and it's scheduled to run to 12 noon. That's Central Daylight Time. Go to houston.score.org for the details. And Angela Randolph, CPA, is also hosting a SCORE workshop on Friday as well. Go to houston.score.org. There's a ton of information. There's a ton of webinars. We're going to continue to bring you great people. Think about the information that you got from Ken Underhill today. So stay safe, be prepared, take advantage of the resources that we are bringing to you. And we hope to see everyone back online for the webinar tomorrow. Have a great day. Be safe, everyone. Thanks, Ken.
Thank you, guys.